I made 50 million in 3 years as a CEO of a fashion brand. And from what I have seen, the harsh reality is that most people are sleepwalking through life, stuck in soul-crashing jobs, drowning in debt, and letting their health fall apart. They think they have all the time in the world to get their act together. But before they know it, another 10 years goes by and they have nothing to show for it. If you don't want that to be your fate, you need to avoid the landmines that sabotage so many people. So these are the top 6 things that you should avoid if you want to get rich. Number 1, not changing your daily routines. The most important part of building wealth at any age is learning to change your daily habits. It's not enough to simply avoid expensive purchases or one-time wasting activities. You need to actively build a mindset that is focused on growth and breaking free from daily routines that are holding you back. For example, I used to spend a lot of money on expensive clothing. I thought having the latest fashion would make me happy, but in reality, it was just temporary satisfaction, but it drained my savings. Another example from my own life is how I used to have hobbies that consumed more time than I would have liked. I loved playing football and even joined a team which required me to train and play games 5 days a week. While I enjoyed the sport, it left me with very little time to focus on personal growth, financial planning, and everything else. By reflecting on these experiences, I learned the importance of prioritizing activities that contribute to my long-term goals and breaking free from habits that don't serve me well. It's a continuous process of self-improvement and mindful decision-making that ultimately leads to building wealth and achieving financial freedom. You cannot expect your life to change if you have the same patterns of thinking that is good enough to work until 5 to 6 p.m. or that you can get away with watching Netflix all day. It's simply not possible to get closer to your goals without putting in the work. Today, there are thousands of distractions that pull you in 50 different directions. Your friends might call you to go out for drinks, weekend trips with the family, etc. You need to have the superpower of saying no. For me, this meant completely shifting my perspective on what was possible. Instead of settling for a traditional 9-to-5 job and living paycheck to paycheck, I put in place the habits necessary to break out of that. I became obsessed with learning about entrepreneurship and marketing. I read every single book that I could get my hands on. I watched courses. I met with people ruthlessly. I made friends with those who were 2 to 3 steps ahead of me. I had to completely change the way I viewed myself. And that meant making tough choices and saying no to a lot of things and to everything that didn't contribute to my goals. I had to learn to say no to distractions, whether it was binge watching TV shows, going out with friends every weekend, or engaging literally any other activity that didn't directly contribute to my big goal. Now, you might say, Dario, that's extreme. And yes, it is. But I felt this was the way of making it happen. For me personally, if you think you can balance it, then go ahead. I don't think you can, but I really recommend you to do the extreme way and get things done. Now, number 2 is more of a controversial one. The many won't agree with. Another major purchase that can hold you back is buying a home or an apartment. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, isn't renting just throwing money away? And I get that perspective. But in reality is that the flexibility that renting provides can be far more valuable than the potential equity you might build by owning a home. Let me explain. When you buy a home, you typically have to put down a significant down payment, often 20% or more of the purchase price, which is a huge chunk of money that gets tied up in a very illiquid asset. And then you're not just paying the mortgage, you're also on the hook for property taxes, maintenance, repairs, and all the other costs that come with home ownership. Those expenses can add up quickly and eat into any potential equity you might be building. And by owning your home, you just have a different view when it comes to your home. You automatically buy more expensive furniture. You might fix it more nicely. Those things add up. And what most people don't think is about the opportunity cost of buying a house. Instead of tying up $200K, $500K in an apartment with a $1,500 monthly mortgage, you could probably get the same place by renting, paying $2,000 a month. And then you would have all of the money that you can invest in your business, stocks, or whatever the returns could be exponentially higher. You would have all the flexibility to pivot or make changes as needed without being weighted down by a massive mortgage. I'm not saying you should never buy a home. Eventually, real estate can be a great investment, but when you're young, your focus should be on building wealth as quickly as possible. And in that case, renting is usually the smarter choice. It gives you flexibility, liquidity, and the ability to invest your money into opportunities that can bring you 3 to 10x what you would get in a 10-year period by just investing on your own. Number 3 is buying an expensive car, which is one that can absolutely cripple you. I learned this lesson the hard way when I bought my BMW M3 at 19 years old. I was caught in the trap of wanting to impress other people whom I didn't even care about. Not only did I have to pay over $65,000 for the car itself, but I invested over $10,000 to upgrade it. And I ended up paying $4,000 in insurance costs, which was just sucking money out of my wallet for no good reason. And then there were the maintenance costs, which can easily run into thousands of dollars per year for a luxury car. On top of that, the moment I drove the car off the lot, it lost a huge chunk of its value due to depreciation. Within a few years, it was worth less than half of what I paid for. Since then, I have never bought a car that expensive again. Buying a car like that is a surefire way to drain your finances and set yourself back from building real wealth. Instead of tying up tens of thousands of dollars in a depreciating asset, that money could have been invested in something that actually grows in value over time, like a business, rental real estate, stocks, etc. Trust me, having a fancy car might feel cool at the moment, but it's not worth the long-term financial burden it creates. Number 4 is spending a ton of money on dates and women. Now, it's easy to get caught up in the dating scene, end up spending way too much money on trying to impress potential partners. Whether it's splurging on fancy dinners, buying expensive gifts, or engaging in activities like partying or going to strip clubs. These expenses can quickly add up and drain your finances. The truth is, you don't need to spend a fortune to find a meaningful connection. In fact, many real women are turned off by excessive display of wealth and would much rather connect with someone who's genuine, driven, and focused on building something for themselves. Instead of blowing your money on superficial experiences, focus on finding a partner who shares your goals and values. Having a supportive partner who understands your goals, motivates you, and is willing to make sacrifices alongside you is a huge asset that most people don't talk about. Some people might say that having a girlfriend is a huge time sink and that they are a distraction because when you're alone, you will have more time to invest in yourself and your business. But I absolutely disagree here. If you truly find the right person who is fully aligned with your goals, she will make your life a lot easier and your journey much more fulfilling. Your partner should understand that you're going to be working at midnight and that you're not going to be spending money on weekend trips. If you can find someone like that, it's much better than going on dates and finding a new woman every week. So another potential money sink is expensive hobbies, whether it's golfing, gaming, playing in a band, or any other hobby that requires a significant investment of both time and money. These hobbies easily take away your focus from the main goal. So you take up golfing. You have to spend a few thousands of dollars on the equipment alone. And the club membership is really expensive. Those costs can add up. And you feel obligated to go. I'm not saying you shouldn't have hobbies or leisure activities. It's important to have a balance in life. But when you're trying to build wealth as quickly as possible, you need to be mindful of how much time and money you're dedicating to anything outside of your main business or goal. Every single second that you're not spending on building your wealth is taking away from the main goal. I don't think people realize how fast time goes. Before you know it, you're going to wake up one day, 10 years later, having achieved nothing, with barely any savings in the bank. Time flies so fast, and there are only so many things that we can do in our lifetime. In my experience, the most successful people are laser focused on their goals and willing to make sacrifices in the short term to achieve the long-term success. So instead of spending thousands of dollars on an expensive hobby, consider finding more affordable alternatives. Or you can even monetize your hobby by turning it into a side hustle. For me, that meant dedicating at least 5 to 6 hours per day to my side hustle or business endeavors, even while I was working a full-time job. It wasn't easy, and I had to give up a lot of leisure activities and social engagements, but the payoff was worth it. Your time is your most valuable asset, so be conscious about where you invested. The last on the list of mistakes you can make is pursuing additional degrees or getting a master's degrees because you think that it's going to make you rich. I'm not saying that education isn't valuable. Knowledge and skills are incredibly important. But the reality is that many advanced degrees like a master's or MBA can end up being a massive drain on your time and money without increasing your earnings potential. A typical master's program can cost upwards $50,000 or more in tuition alone, not to mention the opportunity cost of taking 2 years or more away from the workforce. And for what? The chance to potentially earn a slightly higher salary down the line, even if, in many cases, that investment simply doesn't pay off in a way that justifies that time and money spent. Even worse than spending your own money on additional degrees is borrowing money to finance that education. Student loan debt can become a massive financial burden that weighs you down for years, if not decades, after graduation. Some people don't even pay it off until they're well into their 50s. And for those who think that you need an MBA to start a business, you don't need one. Trust me, most of the knowledge that it gives you is not practical to start a business, sometimes outdated, and it's definitely not practical for making your first million. It will just suck time and money away from you. The best way to build your wealth is to focus that time and energy on building a business or developing skills that can directly contribute to increasing your earnings potential. Whether it's learning how to code, learn how to run Facebook ads, Google ads, create content. Your skills are what will pay you the years to come, not some piece of paper. And those are the mistakes that I would avoid if I wanted to get rich again. Now that you know what not to do, what steps do you have to take to get rich? Click on this video to learn what I will do to get rich if I quit my 9 to 5 today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.